Let me just make sure this actually works. Excellent. All right, everyone. Let's have some fun. So, what I'm going to do here tonight is I'm going to tell you a story. I'm going to tell you a story about how I fell in love. Not with a person, not with a product, but with a place. This place, Antarctica. The highest, the driest, the coldest, the windiest continent on the planet. Doesn't sound fun that way when I describe it like that, does it? Now, just to get the worst bit out of the road at the start, yes, I am from the West Island. Now, it is from here that 10 years ago I got to fly to South America to then go and spend about 5 days around the Antarctic Peninsula. And it was here that I did stuff like cruising around in little Zodiac boats, having a look at the ice, the whales, the seals, the penguins. And if you look at that bottom left-hand photograph, yes, that is me about to swim in below freezing seawater with no shirt and board shorts on. This is the best experience I've ever had in my life. This experience has driven my goals, my thoughts, my purpose with one simple thing, one simple thought. Go back. Whatever you do, just go back. And it is this thought, this purpose that has driven me all the way from lovely, sunny, warm Australia to this land of funny accents and inferior cricket players. Was curious how that would land. And yes, as has been introduced, this is my day job at the International Antarctic Centre, and this is where I get to talk to people every day about the wonders, the joys of Antarctica. Now, in honor of tonight, I will tell you my second biggest nerdy thing, fantasy book series. Has anyone actually read this book? Okay, I've got 3, 4, 5 fans, excellent. This is a book called The Name of the Wind. It's part of the Kingkiller Chronicles, and in this series there is a character that says, there are 7 words that will make a person love you. Now, I have not had a lot of success with this particular strategy, but if anyone knows this book series, you know it emphasizes the importance of stories, storytelling, and how this affects our lives. So instead of 7 words, what I'd like to do tonight is give you 5 stories. 5 stories to help you understand why I fell in love with Antarctica, and maybe so you can begin your own journey investigating the continent at the bottom of the world. So for the first story, it's called Cherry and the Eggs. Now, right at the beginning of the 20th century, it's called the heroic era of Antarctic exploration. Many, many different countries are sending expeditions down to Antarctica to map the land, to do science, look at the wildlife, look at the geology, claim the land, and also to try to reach the South Pole. The place on the Earth, there is no east, there is no west, there is no south. That is north. That is north. That is north. Everywhere is north. No east, no west, no south. If I step off, east, west, north, and south magically appear. If I go back on, everywhere is north again. It is the very bottom of the world. And countries want to claim it, countries want to go there, basically, for bragging rights. But for our story, for this first one, this will be about Apsley Cherry Garrard, who was one of the explorers as part of this expedition, one of the English expeditions as part of this time. And those eggs over there, those are rather special, because if you incubate them and let one of them hatch, outside will pop one of these things. A lovely emperor penguin. Now, emperor penguins were considered rather special at this time. They were considered the most primitive form of bird possible, the most closely related to the dinosaurs. And there was a theory at the time that if you took an egg, if you took the embryo, and were to look inside the embryo, the whole time you would see all of the different evolutional stages of that animal. So you would see it go from a reptile into a dinosaur, and then finally into a bird. Now, emperor penguins have a very, very rough life in Antarctica. They need to stay on the continent over winter. And to demonstrate what they go through every single year, I would like a volunteer. Would anyone like to volunteer? Yes, please, come on up. So we have here, walking now to the stage, if you squint your eyes, a giant emperor penguin. Oh, we'll get to that. We'll get to the waddling. All right, now, where's that paperclip gone? Here, right here. So, what you have now volunteered to do is be the male emperor penguin. So I'm the female. So I've chosen him. He's looking rather good this year. And we've had a little bit of fun together. This is the egg that I have made as a result of that fun. Now, I'm a rather lazy parent as the mother. Chicks are noisy and smelly, and I don't really like them. So I'm going to leave the baby with you. It is autumn in Antarctica. It is getting darker, it is getting colder, winter is coming. And I don't want to be on Antarctica for the winter. I want to be out in the ocean, swimming with my girlfriends, getting my nails done. So I'm going to leave the egg with you. The trouble is, all of this floor right here is ice. And if this egg touches the ground for a couple of minutes, the chick inside will die. So what you need to do as the male is keep this egg on your feet. Don't let it touch the ice for months. You ready? Excellent. Now, there's a blizzard coming. Go on, walk away. Walk away. Walk away. Come on, can you waddle? Can you waddle? Can you waddle? Very, very slowly. Now, to make this even more realistic, what we're actually going to do, can you bend your knees like this? This is how every single penguin stands. They don't have their legs straight. They are permanently in a squat position. Can you move now? Sorry, I just stand up. The male is like that for months. They are on the ice in Antarctica. They can't get any food. Fish, squid, krill, everything penguins eat, it's in the ocean. They are on the ice on the land for months. Ice will eventually cover their face, their back, their eyes, their flippers. The only thing they can do is eat the snow and huddle together against the cold and the wind. The temperatures could be -50, -60. Now, after the end of a few months, the female will eventually come back, and they can then give the chick its first proper meal. The male then has to walk 70 to 100 kilometers back to the ocean after having no food for months. So in this world, it really pays to be the female. It is during the middle of the Antarctic winter that the expedition has to pick up an egg when it's sitting on the feet of a male. Now, to do this, these two men right here, Edward Wilson, Bowers, and Apsley Cherry Garrard, they need to walk 240 kilometers across Antarctica over the winter time, temperatures -50, -60, for the sake of an emperor penguin's egg. They have a look at that clothing they are wearing. It is so bad, it is so cold, that if you are not positioned correctly when you stand up, that clothing around you will freeze like a suit of armor. So when you go to pull the sledge each day, when you walk outside the tent, you need to already be braced to ready to pull the sledge, otherwise you pull a sledge like this. When they would take off their gloves at night when they get into the tent, they would check their fingers would be frostbitten. The fluid inside the blisters on their fingers would be frozen. When their teeth were chattering at night, instead of yours chattering and chattering, their teeth were shattering. Cherry wrote in his diary one night he would have given up 5 years of his life for one night of being warm. And eventually they make it to the emperor penguin colony. They pick up 5 eggs. They are successfully able to transport back three eggs. And at the end of the expedition, the eggs will return to England, where they are put onto a shelf and forgotten about. The theory that they were testing had since been proven obsolete in the time that they were in Antarctica. All of that pain, all of that effort for the sake of an emperor penguin's egg. My second story. It's called Wilson and the Dead Plant. Now, unfortunately, the story is not over here for this same expedition, for this man in the middle here, Sir Edward Wilson, because he is about to go on a trip, a second trip to the South Pole, the point where the Earth spins, there is only north. Now, at the same time that the English expedition is here, there is a Norwegian expedition, and they know that they are going to be racing, the English and the Norwegians, to the South Pole. Whoever can get there first, fame, money, glory, etc. Now, to do this, they will have to walk, the English, 2,800 kilometers. For perspective, that's essentially the length of New Zealand that they will need to be walking for months and months and months over the snow, facing blizzards, facing frostbite, exhaustion, starvation, climbing a glacier through a mountain range. The English finally come onto the Antarctic plateau. It's just another few weeks now, they will be to the South Pole. And eventually, exhausted, stumbling, they arrive at the South Pole. They know they've arrived there because they can see a tent with a Norwegian flag flying above. The English have been beaten. And it is now that defeated and slowly they walk back to their ship. There is a problem though. They have been very slow. It is getting colder. Summer is ending, winter is coming. They eventually descend the glacier through the mountain range, and the first of the party stumbles, hits their head, and shortly afterwards passes away. It is at this time that speed and maneuverability are of critical importance. But around this time, Wilson sees a very interesting set of rocks. And instead of lightening the load and getting back to their base as quickly as possible, Wilson decides to add 16 kilograms of rocks to the sledge. Why? Because one of them had this, a fossil plant inside the rocks. Now, they keep on going, weeks and weeks on the snow, on the ice. Scurvy is now set in. If any of you don't know what scurvy does, it eventually breaks down your scar tissue. So everyone's wounds and surgeries that you have open, or you have now, they will slowly open up and your gums will turn black. You will get very sore. And that was happening to one particular member who had a bullet wound through his femur. The scar tissue was opening up, his feet were getting very frostbitten. It was taking him hours each day just to put on his boots. And eventually he realized he was slowing his party down, and so one day he decides to walk out of the tent to the words of, "I'm just going outside, and maybe some time." His body has never been found. The remaining party members continue to trudge on through the snow, through the ice, through the blizzards. Eventually, they all succumb to the cold, exhaustion, starvation, etc. Their bodies are found the following season, along with the sledge that has 16 kilograms worth of rocks in it. Now, this fossil that they found, this later was found in Australia and in New Zealand and in some parts of India. This fossil right here was a plant that existed hundreds of millions of years ago. And it was crucial in proving the theory that all of these different continents all used to be joined together as part of one larger landmass called Pangaea. The pain, the suffering, this time, was crucial for furthering our understanding of this world. Third story, time to take a break from history. Time to talk about my favorite kind of animal, leopard seals. Now, no one likes leopard seals. Does anyone like leopard seals? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people. Excellent. Everyone else doesn't like them. No one likes them because they eat penguins. And everyone thinks penguins are cute and adorable and cuddly, and no one ever wants anything bad to ever happen to them. I have been working with penguins for 3 years now. They are monsters. So, in the early 2000s, there was, unfortunately, a British scientist that was killed by a leopard seal. And so around this time, there is a very bad reputation for these animals. So this British photographer decides to go to Antarctica, or American, sorry, to go to Antarctica to dive with leopard seals to see if they deserve this reputation or not. So he goes to Antarctica, finds a massive female leopard seal. She's coming up, she's giving him these very threatening thrusts with her mouth and her neck, and it's looking really quite intimidating and quite scary. She stops that after a few minutes, swims off grabs a penguin, swims back to Paul, lets the penguin go. Penguin swims off. She swims off after it again, grabs it, brings it back to him, lets it go. Penguin swims off. She goes after it again, kills it, brings it back to him, lets it go. Paul's just sitting there taking photos the whole time. And now he's got one dead penguin just floating in the water. So she swims off again, goes and kills another penguin, brings it back, lets it go. 2 dead penguins just floating in the water. This happens repeatedly over the course of multiple days. At one time, he has 5 dead penguins just floating in the water. And he's trying to think about this experience and trying to think, what the hell is happening here? And what he concludes is that this apex predator, solitary hunter that we had given a very bad reputation to is trying to feed me penguins. I want to put this into perspective. Imagine you are starving in the wilderness and all of a sudden you see the striped figure of a tiger approaching you through the forest. And instead of charging you, threatening you, killing you, eating you, it runs off and kills a deer and brings it back to you and tries to get you to eat it. It is one of the most remarkable stories that I've ever heard about in nature. This was the story that first got me interested in the Antarctic. Now, to take a break from that, despite what I said earlier, I don't want us to actually kill all of the penguins. Now, after the heroic era, after the early 20th century, a couple of world wars go by, and then we come into the 1950s. Now, at around this time, there's a bunch of different countries that have tried to claim Antarctica. Unfortunately, the way that they've done this is the same way that a 5-year-old tries to claim a toy, which is by saying, I saw it first, it's mine. Now, all of these different countries have claimed pieces of Antarctica. You can see on the right-hand side over there, Australia's claimed a big little chunk. France has got an adorable little claim there. New Zealand's got a claim down the bottom. 3 different countries have all claimed the top left, and Norway has claimed up the top there. So there's starting to be a few little tensions about who owns what. And the Cold War has started brewing, simmering away. Now, in the 1950s, the United States, the Soviet Union, and a few other countries, they decide to have a massive scientific conference research event in Antarctica. They call it the International Geophysical Year. All these separate countries conducting science, doing expeditions, mainly measuring the atmospherics, the magnetics around Antarctica. This was so successful in gathering data and having multiple, at sometimes competing countries sharing one continent that they decided to make a treaty around it. They called it the Antarctic Treaty, and this is the piece of paper that governs Antarctica today. Many different articles to the treaty. I'll just go over a couple. One of them says, Antarctica is for peaceful purposes only. You're not allowed to take weapons down there. You're not allowed to conduct military activity or military maneuvers. And at the bottom it says you can't test any type of weapons. The French were testing nukes in the South Pacific. This stopped that. Don't nuke the penguins. The second article says freedom of scientific investigation will continue as per the International Geophysical Year. And finally, in the third article, that these results, this data will be available to everyone, so you're not hoarding science to yourself. There's many other articles, many other updates, but the gist that I want to get across to you here, this is a land of science and peace. There's never been a war in Antarctica. It is the only continent with no countries, the only continent with no borders, the only continent we have reserved for the penguins, the seals, and the whales. And now for my final story. Back to myself, selfishly. After having visited Antarctica and swum in the freezing seawater and smelled the stink of 1,000 penguins and nearly choking on my own sleeping bag, I have come to New Zealand to try to do it again. Why? I have tried for 10 years to explain why. For 10 years I have failed. As part of my job, I get to speak to many people that have been to Antarctica. I spoke to a diver that went 40 years ago. For 40 years, he has wanted nothing more than to go back. The first two stories that I told you about the explorers going to Antarctica, many, many explorers suffered greatly in those early days, and they went back, and they went back, and they went back. Why? I wish I could put it in words. I could describe it as beautiful, majestic, magnificent, otherworldly, magical. But you can describe a desert that way. You can describe a rainforest that way. You can describe a mountain range that way. There's something more about this place, something more about this ice. To give you an idea, I'll read you a quote from another famous Antarctic explorer, Sir Ernest Shackleton. "We were now reveling in the indescribable freshness of the Antarctic that seems to permeate one's being, and which must be responsible for that longing to go again, which assails each returned explorer from the polar regions." Another way that I could describe it is like this. When you are in Antarctica, at some point, there will be some invisible strings that attach themselves inside your mind. And when you return to civilization, to your normal world, somehow, some force will pull on the strings. And your head will look south, and you will want to return. This is me at the end of my trip 10 years ago. We are back in South America. Guess which way I'm looking? South. I have been looking south for 10 years now. It is the reason why I came to New Zealand, to try to go back to the place that we set aside for science and peace during a Cold War. The place where people suffered greatly and pushed themselves physically for their natural curiosity to further our understanding of the world. To go to the place where the predators feed you penguins. To go to the most beautiful place in the world, Antarctica. The place that is, sadly, melting. Fortitude Vincimus. Thank you, everyone. Questions?
Does this work? Oh, yeah.
I'm just wondering, you've been living in Christchurch for a while. Have you seen the Wizard's Map of the World?
The Wizard's Map of the World?
Yeah.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Because it will change your perspective, because it will put Antarctica at the top of the world.
I have seen that map of the world many, many times, yes.
I just wondered about the people who go down there to study all the animals there. Do they have great, what am I trying to say? Things to help them to look at things, to...
Microscopes? Yeah. The question is, people that went to Antarctica to study wildlife, did they have things to help them? Is that...
Oh, yeah, I was thinking of...
facilities, bases, equipment?
Facilities, yes, to actually study them properly.
There are about 70 different research bases in Antarctica that each belong to a bunch of different countries: South Africa, South America, Argentina, Chile, Australia, New Zealand, what else we got? Russia, UK, China, Germany. What more do you want? There's about, I think it's 50, forget the precise number of countries that have a base there, but there's about 70 total. New Zealand just has one, because it's a tiny country. Australia, for reference, has 3.
They've just been advertising for jobs for people to go down.
They've just been advertising jobs for people to go down to Antarctica. Believe me, I know.
So that kind of follows on to my question. If you've been waiting 10 years and other people waiting 40, why is it so hard to go back?
So I'll just give the, why is it so hard to go back there? So to give a quick rundown, when I went, I was 15 years old. So I had to do something like finish high school. And then I wanted to stick around in Australia to finish off some stuff there. And then only 3-4 years ago, after COVID, could I come here to try to further pursue that Antarctic dream? So I've only really been pursuing Antarctica for about 3.5 years now. Other people that went a long time ago to Antarctica, maybe they come back, maybe they have a family, maybe other priorities are there in their life that are more important, but they will still want to go back. Now, why is it difficult? Well, unfortunately, there's not a lot of jobs and there's a lot of people that want them. And there's an official term in this community called a repeat offender, where someone gets the job and stays in the job year after year after year after year. So there's not a lot of slots, a lot of people want them, and once someone gets one, they tend to stay there. And if you're an electrician and you want to go to Antarctica, you need to be a good electrician. Because if something electrical breaks, that is your problem to fix. Like the heating, if that breaks in the wintertime, if you can't fix it, you all have a problem. So you need to be good at whatever it is you do. So you need to be good, which means you need to have experience, and then you need to get a slot once it opens up. All these things together, it's difficult, it's hard.
We have time for one more question.
In your opinion, what is the most important bit of research or science going on down there?
In my opinion, what is the most important bit of research or science going on down there? How will this place change in the next 100 to 200 years? I touched on it very, very quickly at the end of my talk. We do know that Antarctica is being affected by ice sheet movement. Ice sheets are melting, some are going away, some are getting bigger. It's quite confusing and a lot of it's above my head. But as a very, very general term, to me, the most important bit of research, how will Antarctica change? How will that affect us? How will this giant continent twice the size of Australia at the bottom of the world, how will giant sheets of fresh water going into the ocean, how will that affect the ocean currents that we rely on for food and our current economic system? How will this affect us? And it may not change things in your lifetime or in my lifetime, but it will change. And that's what I think is the most important thing. It will change at some point.